any professors. I've never heard any of this from my peers.
Heard what exactly?
That casual sex is empowering, and
you don't watch TV, you don't see it on social media, you don't hear it in the music, you don't hear Cardi B and What's Her Face being like, my wet ass pussy.
I'll give you Cardi B, maybe music, maybe like rap music.
I mean, that's the culture. What is that reflective of? The fact that that's in the mainstream means it's been accepted by people. They could have never put that on TV.
I mean, women were
40 years ago.
accepting pretty brutal treatment from men pre-feminism. Would you
agree?
with
We can get into that.
I'm sure we can. My parents are old. My parents are 65 and 75. I know what was happening in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Like,
from the perspective of your two parents, you're going to generalize to the whole population?
My parents have friends. I mean, are you going to generalize the population from her experience with a bum?
No, not at all. I'm generalizing from reading.
I also read. I am currently in college, and I'm telling you that no one I know who's a soc major, I don't know any feminist studies majors, but none of them are hearing this. I've never encountered a communist
let's
professor.
Say they're not. Are your friends engaging in casual hookups?
No, not my friends.
Not your friends, but are women on campus engaging in casual hookups?
Undoubtedly, and they were also doing that in the 90s, 80s, 70s, even the 60s and the 50s.
You're talking about the sexual revolution, right?
Me?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is when the sexual revolution was happening, right? So I'm talking pre-feminism. Do you know when feminism started?
Do I know, like, there is no...
No, you don't have to know the date,
that
but around
started,
the time.
But I mean,
let's...
Like, yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I would say, like, as an actual political movement, probably, like, the early 1900s, late 1800s. But I think
so you're talking about the right to vote? Yes.
No, not just that, but I mean, like, having a sort of, like, political consciousness that women are lacking something politically, and, like, trying to think what was, like, John Adams' wife, Don't Forget the Ladies, like, that kind of stuff has been around for a long time.
Right. And this sexual push to make women be more promiscuous, do you know when that really started?
I mean, if we're talking about, like, the sexual revolution, I would say probably late 60s, 70s.
Right. So that would be the whole time period that you were saying that women were engaging in casual hookups.
Women were engaging in casual sex before the sexual revolution. I think that the push was more to normalize it. And I'm not saying that I think that it's a good thing. I really don't. But
you don't see the connection to feminism with that. That's what you're saying.
No, obviously the sexual revolution is connected to feminism. I'm saying that casual sex was happening before that.
Right, but you
not
don't
on a mass scale.
You don't see the push between casual sex and women. I mean, there is a low consciousness among women these days about what they can command in exchange with a man. It's incredible.
I would agree with that, honestly. I see your point there. I think that women accept subpar treatment constantly, but I don't think it's feminism.
I think it's 100% the consequence of feminism, which is ironic, but again, I think we live in a satanic world that presents everything upside down from the opposite of what it is. So they present to you feminism as your liberation and your empowerment, and it ends up doing the exact opposite.
I'm just curious who you think they is. Like, do you think every woman looks to Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion for their, like,
they don't have
guiding
to.
morals?
It's pervasive. It's everywhere. You put on reality TV, they're doing it. You put on the Kardashians, they're doing it. You put on music, they're talking about it. You put on rap music, they're talking about it. You put on it's all over. You put on even, like, I don't know what it's called, the white people music where they're, like, playing, I don't know. It's all really sad. They're all depressed
like
all the time.
Like the coffee house music
stuff like that. They're talking about the same stuff, you know, and so it's pervasive. Like, when you are swimming in the water, you cannot see it, but it is once you start to see it, you see it everywhere, and it's pretty disgusting.
Well, I have a question.
Super based, by the way. Go ahead.
My question is, what would be an effective counter movement? Because it seems like you're saying that women are being oppressed. So when a movement for women's actual liberation,
I think women are oppressing themselves. I think that's the best thing a demon can do, is get you to hurt yourself and harm yourself.
So wouldn't we want to elevate women's conscious about that, like social conscious about that?
Yeah.
And what would be, like, in my opinion, I think, you know, feminism has changed over time.
Correct.
And I think
it's gotten worse.
I think it would be a really effective movement to take back feminism, because I feel like you guys agree on a lot of the stuff about casual sex isn't beneficial for women, and an effective way to communicate that to women is to say, I'm a feminist. I actually want you to stand up for yourself. I want you to,
Yeah, well, in general, I don't like labels. Feminism as it is was constructed by the CIA with Gloria Steinem. She was in the CIA. It's very well documented, so I don't want to use a label like that. I think it's it's just too tainted. I, in general, don't really like labels. I don't ascribe to being a Democrat or a Republican. I think they're both pieces of shit most of the time. Sorry, I don't know if I could say that. But I think the more effective thing would be, I think you need to approach women with a tremendous amount of compassion.
Yeah, and I think women
and
respond.
education.
Oftentimes, women respond to
Absolutely.
feminism. So that's why.
They I don't know if they respond. I don't really think they're thinking most of the
But I
time.
mean, are you saying, well, if they don't respond to feminism, then how are they getting these messages that feminism is pushing, and how are they implementing that in their
so
lives?
infiltrated.
Well,
So they
no,
are
in the
listening.
comments.
So
no,
they
no,
are
no.
listening.
So no,
You're
no, no.
right.
Hold
I
on,
agree with you.
hold on. I said I don't think they're thinking about it. A lot of times when things are advanced on many levels, we accept it without conscious thought. There's a difference between that. We'll just accept, like, oh, that's true. Like, for example, everybody thinks we should drink 8 glasses of water a day. We weren't doing that when we were in the wild. We were totally fine. Why is that now common knowledge? Well, I think it's because they put fluoride in the water and they want everybody getting enough of it. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Wait,
and
how
there
did
were-
we get to the fluoride thing?
Because I'll always tie something back to fluoride, dude. I think fluoride makes people passive
Makes
and
you fat.
it makes you passive. It lowers your IQ and it makes you unresistant to propaganda.
And now you said in your pre-show notes that you think that you kind of already touched on this, how promiscuity is a CIA psyop.
Correct. Psychological operation.
Yeah.
I think they did it to the men first with James Bond and presenting this guy as like superhero. Oh,
Wait,
look.
James Bond is a psyop?
Correct. James Bond is the psyop.
Yeah, if you know who wrote the James Bond novels, he was actually an intelligence officer.
There you
himself,
go.
so.
It's to make the intelligence agencies seem cool and like they're protecting you and they're the good guys. And then in addition to that, they threw in a sexual promiscuity angle for men so that men would think, oh, this is what I aspire to. Now, there are always have been men within the population. It's a small percentage who were promiscuous. They're geared that way. They're wired that way. They're also usually the most aggressive. We needed them to be fighters. However, that was not the preponderance of men who acted that way. Most men wanted to find a woman, wanted to cherish her, wanted to have children, wanted to provide for her.
Well, I still feel like that doesn't really answer what would be an effective way to combat that. I still don't know
Sure.
what
So
that would be.
my thing that I think the effective way to combat that is, number one, to raise awareness so that women can understand what they're being presented with.
Well,
Correct.
wouldn't that be effective through feminism? That's my point.
Why would that be effective through feminism? Feminism is teaching the exact opposite.
Well, I'm saying you hijack the movement and you change it. The movement has changed so much through time that
What do you mean,
can
though?
just say,
What do you mean by hijack the move? What should the new messaging of the new feminist movement be?
well, I mean, I think that we understand that the sexual revolution and women having casual sex, it's been painted as, as beneficial. So if you reframe it...
You understand that. And
Right,
you
so-
come from a Catholic background.
yes.
But you cannot think that that is what most women are thinking. They're
Right.
not thinking that at all.
Right, yeah. No, you're right. That's why I'm saying it would be more effective to communicate that through saying, I'm on your side, I feel like it's just not really very effective to communicate that through saying, feminism gives a really good framework for saying, I support women's liberation, and I think real women's liberation is
Liberation from what?
from this, like, things like the sexual revolution.
Right.
Okay, but what was the original goal? Like,
Sure,
what-
yeah. I mean, I can
when
say...
you ask a woman what's feminism liberating you from, she'll say the evil patriarchy.
Yeah, and
Right.
I mean, would you say that it's sort of a patriarchy that women are under, that men are using women for just, sex and no
I think
marriage
women
or
are
anything?
there's some women that are complicit in that. Like, for example, Gloria Steinem was part of that. Frankly, I think it's because she was ugly and nobody liked her, and then she wanted to go ahead and reduce other women to her competitive level because
Yeah.
she could never compete with a truly beautiful and intelligent woman.
I mean,
And
yeah.
so she decided to reduce everybody's worth by doing this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
So there's plenty of women, and I know older women who go through the feminist thing realize they're miserable. They're in their 40s, they're childless, they don't have kids. Which I'm not saying every woman needs to do that, but a lot of women will realize that they've missed something, and then instead of owning to their mistakes and teaching younger girls to not go that way, they enroll them in
double
the
down.
same behavior, and that is evil. And I
Yeah.
don't think women should do that.
no, I
And
completely
I think
agree
taking
with
it
that.
out of an ideology of like, oh, it has to be feminism, it has to be some movement. Because I think if you really focus more on like an overall morality, and that can be your focus, but we don't want to do that, right? Like there's been a wave of we don't want a religion, right? Like America is getting increasingly secularized.
Yes.
And so then when we want to create morals, we have to then hide behind a political ideology or like feminism or communism or an ism, because we can't align to get our morals, because we can't align with a religious a religion. And so then everyone's confused, and so that's why it's like, oh, but now if I'm not a feminist, I'm anti-woman, and there's all this kind of weight behind either being a feminist or not being a feminist, and that's where, so now like politics has tried to take the role of what religion used to be in our society, and I think that's where it's getting so detrimental.
Grid One Motorsports donated $200. Conspiracy Theory Girl, can we talk about Disney and the Princess Effect? How about Rockefeller and the public school system? So many control mechanisms, so little patriarchy.
I'm not familiar with Disney and the Princess Effect, but I am familiar with Rockefeller, the public school system, and the way they took over the medical system, and pretty much just they are advancing a lot of control mechanisms that way, because they put people in schools and indoctrinate them from a young age with these thoughts. But the reason I don't think that it presents well to say I'm a feminist is because, number one, feminism already has such a clear meaning and definition for people.
Does it?
It really
it
doesn't.
does.
But based on what you guys say about feminism, it doesn't, because you say things that are completely at odds with what I hear actual people my age who are in college, what they think about it. It doesn't seem like you're really
What
in
do
tune with,
people your age think about it, about feminism?
they don't think that it's a conspiracy being, like an anti-natalist,
they're
satanic
uninformed.
conspiracy.
They're
no, I
uninformed.
think you might have a little something going on. But,
are you-
I think that's
Listen-
what,
Whoa,
right?
hold
Like,
on, hold on.
No.
You got to qualify that statement a little bit.
She's
What
calling me
precisely-
crazy, even
what
though it's well
precisely-
documented that Gloria Steinem was a CIA
I
agent.
back you up, girl.
I think
on.
you have a little conspiracy-minded thing going on where you're looking for
Right.
a conspiracy in everything.
No, I just am informed and educated, and I'm not arrogant
Well,
enough
I
to
c-
assume that my ignorance means that somebody else is crazy. But
I mean,
that
I
could
can
be you
also
if you'd
say
like.
I'm informed and educated, and we
Right.
can go back and forth saying that forever.
Well, so do you know then that what she's saying about Gloria Steinem is not only correct, but that through the Congress for Cultural Freedom in the 60s and 70s, the CIA was pushing feminism through like 40 different publications around the world. They sent, people to
I mean,
festivals.
so what if Gloria Steinem was like a CIA operative? Gloria Steinem's not the only
No, I'm
feminist in the
saying
world.
it's not just her. I'm saying
I'm
the
not saying-
Congress for Cultural Freedom, which was a widespread CIA program that went around the world in dozens of countries and had hundreds of magazines, newspaper outlets, all pushing feminism. This was not just like one lady. This was like a broad effort during the Cold War to kind of differentiate Western liberal values from Russia. So they pushed feminism and the sexual
I
revolution.
mean, are you
as part
anti
of
like
this.
classical liberalism and
Yes,
Western
I
liberal
absolutely
values?
am,
Okay,
yeah.
but you're also anti-communist. I'm very curious maybe that's off topic, but
You can be both.
you can be both communist and
You can
a
be
liberal?
against communism and against Western liberalism.
I don't mean liberalism in like liberal versus
Classical
conservative.
liberalism,
Yeah.
which is
You're
the
against
American
that?
founding.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm against that.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
sorry. Go
oh
ahead.
no, you go for it.
I was just gonna say that I believe that you guys can be completely correct. Like everything you're saying is correct, and how feminism is a psyop. I'm saying psyop back. I feel like that's the best.
No, I understand what
way.
you're saying. I think I just disagree that would be the best way. That's all.
I just don't see a better route, because I have the same experience. I've never had any friends who are genuine like feminists who read literature say that they're pro casual sex and that it's really healthy for women to do that. I've never ever heard that ever.
Well, here's what you guys need to understand is that feminism is anything that pushes back against patriarchy and moves toward egalitarianism. So if you think the sexes are equal, we should all have equal rights, so we can get into rights and what you think that all means, but anybody who is saying patriarchy is bad is feminist, whether they identify or know that or not. So if you think that just like, we have to push for women to be equal with men and women have been historically oppressed, that's all feminism, whether you think it is or not.
Well, for like egalitarianism and stuff, from my understanding, you believe that egalitarianism means that men and women are just on equal planes, or
It means that they should have like equal rights and equality of, some people would say equality of outcomes, some people would say equality of opportunity. doesn't really
Yeah, but it's
matter
on
to
an
me.
equality of outcome now, is
right,
what they mean
yeah.
by it.
Let me think. I have to think. I'm sorry.
I just don't think that you guys will ever successfully convince, or whatever movement or not movement you want to be a part of, will ever successfully convince the female population that they should not at least
I agree
fight
with you,
for,
which is why
Fight for what? Sorry, continue.
fight for egalitarianism, whatever
Right.
that means to them.
What is
You'll
it
never
that women
convince
don't have
women to
now?
not- yeah.
What is it that women don't have now that men have?
I'm not saying that there is an imbalance currently, or is or isn't. I'm saying that I don't think.
But do you
will
understand
ever,
the problem? We'll never be able to convince women to not fight for something that they already have.
If they already have it, then what about this problem you're talking about, where women are allowing men to mistreat them? And
Correct. That is
Because women, the rates of like depression among women are so unhappy, and it's gone like there's a direct correlation with levels of unhappiness of women documented.
Okay, so it
and-
sounds like women have something that men don't have, which you're claiming is not true.
but hold on a second. No. Don't do that. You're shifting tides. First of all, you said that women that you'll never be able to stop. You'll never be able to convince women to stop fighting for equal rights. And I said, what is it that we don't have that men have in that department? Now, what she's pointing out is a consequence of that very fight, because the supposed
Really?
well, it's a consequence of the
How
feminism.
can you say that? There's a ton of
because it
correlates
because it correlates directly with the rise of the movement.
but it also correlates with time passing. It correlates with a bunch
Correct.
of 9/11.
Correlation-
You could blame it on
correlation
a bunch
does
of
not-
random things.
70s. Do you know what year 9/11 happened?
Well, you didn't mention the 70s. I'm saying you could. I'm saying you could
Uh-huh.
literally point to any random event that happened throughout history and say, well, this is why women
You're
started becoming
you're
unhappy.
100% correct. The correlation does not equal causation. However, there is strong connection between these things that we see women who continue along the path that, so quote unquote, feminism would get you to. By the way, the extreme of feminism, because I did study feminism, is a lesbian separatist feminism in which they want to live on an island away from men, use them for their semen, only keep the female. I'm not kidding. This is a real thing. You
Now,
guys can
I'm
look it up.
familiar with
Use their
lesbian
bone
separatism.
You can look it up.
I'm familiar with
My
female
issue
separatism.
is, number one, I don't think men and women should be at each other's throats, and this goes for the right-wing movement too, which is a little bit of your podcast, where they set
We'll get into that.
they set men up to see women as these evil, like, manipulative creatures, and then women are set up to see men as these, like, evil, tyrannical, power-hungry creatures. How there are both of these things within the population. I've had experience with both of them. I'm not saying they don't exist, but however, to have a movement that continually tells women this is what they want from you sets us up to be unhappy, because I believe we are made to be in partnership with the other sex and not at war with them.
I think my problem with just what you're saying in general is I think we're diagnosing the same issue. But
Not McKin Money Offer Podcast donated $200. Please redirect the conversation to the left-hand corner of the table. I have a really high run on the number of likes for this show. Shut up, leptonic woman in black.
Make me, bitch.
anyway, so I was just saying, I think that we have the same, like, we're diagnosing the same problem. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure.
I'm saying that my problem is that I think that men are taking advantage of women via casual sex in the sexual revolution.
Correct. I also think men themselves are a victim of this propaganda.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I'm just saying I don't see an effective solution for it other than what I've proposed, and I don't see
Which is
giving
hijacking
one.
feminine. I
Yeah.
did give one. I said I believe that we should approach women with compassion, raise their consciousness so they can truly understand
but how?
the problem.
How? What would be the way to do that?
Well, this is one way. Education, speaking up.
They could read my book and find out the truth about how all of this went down, and that it wasn't this grassroots movement where women looked around in the 1800s and went, oh my God, we're oppressed. We have to march in the streets until we have voting rights and bank accounts. And that it was just this thing that's time had come, because it's complete bullshit. It's not true, and that's not how it happened. It was an astroturf movement from the beginning, from the 1700s, or even further back if you want to go there. So this idea that there is even such a thing as, like, oh, we can have women's rights and egalitarianism only at the behest of the men who are going to enforce it for you anyway.
Well,
so I think if you just get through to women about some of these things, it will help. But also, do we really want to, depend on turning the opinion of women toward how things ought to be?
Well, I think
I don't know about that.
I mean, I'm only referring to the sexual revolution. Like, I'm not talking necessarily about egalitarianism or anything. I mean, you say we approach women with compassion.
Correct.
And I mean, I think the women who are reading your book are probably already agree with you.
Correct.
And
Me?
yeah.
No. I get messages every single day from women around the world who thought they were picking it up to debunk it. I'm going to prove this bitch wrong. And then they read and they go, shit. They check the source material and they're like, damn, she's right. And then it changes their mind.
Well, I'm sure people can be, I'm sure that a lot of people will read it and agree with you and change their minds. I'm just saying that wouldn't the most effective way to change people's minds who are already feminists be telling women you are being oppressed because of this same thing that we're all agreeing on?
We can tell them it's bad for them, but that doesn't mean they're going to listen, especially when they're young and the entire culture is, Leonardo
Wait, so
said,
what's
is
your
saturated
prescription?
with it.
My prescription is by basically psyoping feminism, because I mean that's
Wait, what do you
She
mean
wants to
by
hijack feminism and turn it.
hijack feminism?
yeah. So
Brandon Middleton donated $200. Feminism, gender theory, and CRT are intertwined with Marxism.
Yep.
Marxists preach the oppressor narrative. Victim mentality makes people fail and be unhappy. That's of the connection to women's unhappiness.
Yo, thank you, Brandon P. Middleton. We have another one coming in, so I'm just going to preempt it here just in a sec. I appreciate it, Brandon. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And then we have, Law Paladins. I'll just read it. We have, your shirt is arguing with the wrong person. The only smart woman other than Miss Wilson I've seen on this podcast in the past year. She should direct her rage elsewhere. I don't. Are
She's
you
talking about you,
She's
pink
having.
shirt.
She's rage. It's the rage of the pink shirt.
wait, am I raging right now?
I don't think so.
We do have David Treziak who says, "Let's dance. You were good last time. Ironic shirt meaning for debate, or double entendre for dating show. Grabbing my tin hat now. Julia Child was in CIA and she could make a great pie too. Okay."
It's a true
True.
story.
I'm very surprised to receive a nice comment. Thank
There
you.
you go. Yeah, see, that's
you.
not all bad. You've been scowling for the past 20 minutes. Do you have input on this?
Me?
Yeah, you've been like,
Oh
It
no,
seemed-
I've just been like honestly like watching
okay.
back and forth.
oh, okay.
I just like I kind of honestly got a little lost in the sauce on what they were talking about because I couldn't tell whether or not at first I thought they were saying like, oh, they're feminists, but then I realized that they were saying they're not feminists.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, to me feminism like is just like equality. That's it. Like just women and men being
Do you think
equal.
it's possible for women to be equal with men? And what do you think equality is?
I do. I think that both genders definitely like bring different things to the table, you know, like
sure.
you know,
But what do you mean by equality? Like, what would be an
like
example?
equal pay and stuff if they have the same jobs and everything, like equal pay, you know.
Okay.
Equal rights.
Equal rights. Okay, and then if women have equal rights with men and they have the same opportunities, does that mean they should have the same responsibility? Should you have the same responsibility and authority to go with your rights?
Well, I mean, I think any adult should, you know. Like, I don't think it's whether you're a man or like a woman. I think if you're an adult, you should have responsibility and for yourself in general as a person.
Wait, Nick, hold on. Nick, are we at risk of getting a nip slip from this chick?
I don't. My nip is in the border.
Do you have
So.
pasties or anything you can put on?
No, we've talked about this. I definitely like.
What do you mean we talked about this?
Like
We
he
didn't.
asked me if I had pasties, and I said,
Nick, pull up the chat because they've been probably paying more attention than me. So hold on, gotta stop the show. Pull up the chat, please. Chat is. It's hard for me to tell. I'm paying attention to the conversation. This TV show. It's hard for me. TV. It's hard for me to tell. Are we at risk of getting a fucking nip slip from this chick? One in the chat if it looks risky, because otherwise you're gonna have to put on your jacket or some shit. It's been getting. I've been looking. It's way too fucking close.
Hey, would you stop oppressing her with your toxic masculinity, please?
I said, no, she's fine.
See, if these guys were smart, they would say no way.
I know what comes with the troubles of a nip slip. So if you guys were in danger, I wouldn't risk the biscuit. So
They're pretty divided
I'll
there.
make sure they're tucked
Tuck them in.
tucked good.
I don't know. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. Do you guys think it's?
Everyone stare at my tits really
Everybody's
quick.
staring at it. Look, I gotta fucking do it. I'm not risking.
You're probably
How
fine.
high up your nipples are.
Yeah, I don't know where her
Yeah, they usually start right here.
It's a little risky on the left side, so maybe you just
On
want
the left side?
half the
Yeah, I
sweater.
think the left side and you're good.
They're tucked
I mean, you have a jacket if you get
If
too in danger.
it's just a little hot, but not too hot. I'm like
Yeah.
in between being hot and cold. But like, no, I think I pulled up my shirt even more, so it should be good.
Maybe just can you put your shirt on a little bit just so we're not
There.
risking this shit?
All right.
All right, it should be good. It should be
Okay, so what I wanted to ask is, so you just outlined some rights that you think women should have. Do women have duties?
Yes, they do.
What would
But-
be an example of women's duties
Like-
to society?
Well, I mean, if they choose to be a mother, that's one of their duties. But like, you know, people.
Well, a duty isn't a choice. Those things are mutually exclusive. So is there a
Okay.
duty that women because we know men have duties. Men have a duty to protect, to provide. They have to build all the infrastructure.
Well,
they
I
have
mean,
to
I think
defend
that's
the
a-
nation. So
I
what
think
are
that's a
women's
choice. I don't think that's
not
a
really,
Change
not
the
when
law.
there's a
Protection-
draft. Not when there's a draft. And who else is going to build the infrastructure if men don't do it? Nobody.
Well, I mean,
also, when
I
you
just
talk,
think that men and women could do it. You know,
No.
I think there's women in the force. Like,
Are you
know, men
saying
and
woman or women? Because those are different.
women?
Woman is one.
Women.
Women
yeah.
is more than one.
Well, I'm pronouncing it, I guess, differently than you said, but I'm saying women.
she's saying the plural.
Yeah, like
Okay.
women in general.
I can't hear the difference with a lot of these like younger girls. They say the word the same, so I wasn't sure. So we know men have duties.
Yes.
To provide and protect. If men aren't out keeping the electrical grid up, there's going to be problems, right?
I mean,
They
yes,
have
I know
to
it's
do
more
that.
of a man's job, but like women can do that job too.
No, they can't.
Like, yes, they can.
You don't see any women doing
Do you
it.
know?
they can, like,
do you
that's the
know
thing, they
what
might
it
not choose
entails
to.
to create,
But you're telling
make, and
me
lay
that's
concrete?
impossible for
It
a
is
woman
impossible. They
to
can't
go
do it.
do an
Okay, but there are men
That's
who also
insane.
can't do. There are disabled men. There are really
but
skinny,
the only
weak
people
men.
who can do it are
men.
men.
But there, I
So-
mean, but the thing is, there are plenty of men who aren't doing that. So you could say it's a man's duty, but you can't generalize and say it's all men's duty. Just like you can't generalize and say all women's duty
it's
is to
the
have
duty
children.
of men to provide, protect, and build the nation.
and
They're
lots
the
of
only
them
ones who
can't-
can do it.
and lots of them physically can't.
There are some, but
I
that
would say
doesn't
that
mean
I
that
see
we can't
a lot
generalize.
of men who I don't think would last.
Yeah.
Yes,
very long
I-
on
I
the
don't
front
see any
line.
women that would be able to do it. So
Okay,
I
so
can agree with that.
But it doesn't. We can talk about generalizations and outliers. But I'm asking: do women have any duties to society, or is it just she needs to do what makes her happy? She just needs to
be
focus
women,
on her
like a
happiness.
mother.
Women
She needs to
produce
be
the
a
next
mother.
generation.
Yeah, that they should, but they're not. Have you guys taken a
But
look
they
at the
are
birth rates?
because if
have
you
taken a look
can't
at the
say
birth
that because
rates?
if you say
Well,
that
the Mexicans
the birth
are.
rates are lower.
even Mexicans are below replacement now.
but like the
Oh,
birth rates are
no.
lower, but that's
They
not
dissimulated.
saying that they're not. I agree
They're all
that there's
westernized.
there's a decline in terms of the value of motherhood, and I personally think that should be something that is valued again. It's a very important role, and there
Okay.
should be no shame in wanting to be a mother. And I think a lot of, you know, as a young woman, you get this, you're kind of torn where you're definitely led on a path of education, and that's important. I mean, education is great, and we are a more privileged generation, so our parents in general had enough money to like at least want us to get an education. We got an education, we get a good job,
Well,
and then you get
wait a
later,
second.
and then now you're
This
in the
is a
career
lot of
world,
woman
and you
prattle,
well, let
and
me
I'm not
finish
sure
what I'm
where we're going
saying. Rach, let me finish. So you have a job, you get your job, and then all of a sudden you're 29, you are 30, 31, 32. Now you have like a short time span to get into this relationship, to get married. The guy feels pressure. If you've been on birth control, that's going to make it hard to actually conceive, because that impacts your fertility. You have to wait for that stuff to wear off. So there are these problems. So I think that the age of responsibility of motherhood has been pushed out, but the problem is that because of like the biological restrictions and limitations on a woman's body, we can't we feel that pressure, and so it's this catch-22, and you want to, and so
Wait, I
it's-
don't think it is a catch-22 though.
well, but it's either you pursue education and get a career and
Yeah,
all that
so-
stuff,
right.
or you be a mom, and that's a hard. It's hard.
not.
It's a
It's
hard
actually
decision.
not hard at all, and here's why. Because why are we telling young women to take your most fertile years when you should be having babies and spend that entire decade of your 20s chasing an education which the average woman goes $40,000 into debt to get, and she makes an average of $40,000 a year, which is a terrible deal, right? So we tell them to go to all this college, get into debt to get your degree, and then do the career thing like you just said. And then all of a sudden at 30, flip a switch and try to get at least 2.1 babies out of them. That's stupid, and it's never going to happen. So why do we give young women that advice? I mean, and I think 95% of y'all don't have any business being in a university at all.
I mean, it would be great if you could pause, and take advantage of your fertile years, right? And then you go into school. But like, you don't need to go to school.
What do women need to go to school for? Have you ever taken a look at what they major in?
Who's gonna spread
Sociology. Right?
political science?
Okay.
Who's gonna
sociology?
who's gonna do this anti-feminist movement if there aren't learned women in the world?
I will say this. I didn't go to college. I never went to college. I had my first baby at 20, the way the Lord intended, and
that's beautiful. And you're obviously very intelligent and can speak for yourself, and that's
so
awesome.
I don't need a bullshit university degree and a bunch of debt.
But I will say what a realistic, just a reality is. It's so expensive now. I mean, live in any city. If you want to be a homeowner,
why do you think college is so expensive?
No, I'm not saying college. I'm saying after college. I'm saying you need a job. You need cost of living. And so
also,
and if you're,
do you know why that's that
because
way?
more people entered the workforce, and so
which people?
Women entered the workforce.
Women entered the workforce in mass in the 1970s.
Just one sec, guys.
God for feminism. I wouldn't be able to have a triple-digit body count and no kids. Population
triple digit.
Question for the panel: would you date a guy with 100 plus body count?
Show of hands if you would.
No, his ability to bond has been destroyed.
Yeah. Okay, she would. Nobody else. Oh, you would date a guy 100 plus body
count? She's
count?
dating a guy with 100 plus body count.
Can I ask?
Okay, continue on with your point.
So your husband's name is Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
So does he not want your daughters to go to college? He doesn't want them to go to college.
They haven't so far. They haven't. They've done. They've been homeschooled, and then they were able to do a little bit of trade school. Like one of them does dental assisting, the other one does culinary arts. Mm-hmm. Free education, no debt, something so they have a little job they can do until they get married because the world is the way it is. I'm not saying I don't understand the situation we're in, but I think it's a horrible idea. 95% of women, they go to college, they get bullshit degrees and shit like interior design,
95% of all people do not belong in college because they are mentally, well, I can't say the word, but they're not well. So the issue I think that she was bringing up when she was asking you about the rights is people don't understand that the minute there's a right, there's also a corresponding duty on somebody to enforce and allow that right. Mm-hmm. And so actually I think most rights are total BS, male and female, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you might have the idea that I'm in a prescription that somehow women should go back to being a second tier citizen or something, which I don't know that we were. I wasn't around in that time to say that we were. I don't necessarily agree that women shouldn't be educated, because if women are going to raise children, they should be intelligent enough to know how to raise those children and shouldn't raise morons. But I do think that there is a push on all fronts for everybody to go to college as if they need it, and this is just a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah,
to
I think
get as much money.
Intelligence and education are completely separate from college and university.
For sure.
Yeah.
You were raising your hand. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Someone kind of already said it.
What was it?
I was just gonna mention they were talking about how people aren't having kids or aren't raising families, and someone already mentioned the cost of living, and I was going to say that's a big
here's the other part. Hold on. Here's the other part. Okay, men do not want to assume duty because they are getting free sex.
Right.
They do not want that.
Men don't even want this.
That's what I'm saying.
Men don't even want it. They don't. And do you know
they
what
don't want what? They don't want what? Free sex?
Yeah, men don't want free sex. They want a high value woman.
They do think they want it though.
But that's because women are making it so easy.
They want it short term.
Women are making it so easy. Women
I think it's both.
Bikini pictures on Instagram.
I think it's both, man. I think it's both. I think men have this idea that they have to rack up. I mean, look at this. Men, they're freely telling you I have triple digit body counts, like he's bragging, instead of looking at the fact that he's lost all his morality and has subjected women to nothing as an object.
His morality.
100% it does, because you're just using another human being for your own sexual satisfaction.
Sexual satisfaction is much different for men and women. For women, sexual
Please tell us, Dr. Ruth, what is the difference?
Having sexual relations as women, having sexual relationships as women is emotional. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, but seriously, having sex as a woman is much different than having sex as a man. For men, it's not emotional. It's purely their evolutionary descent. You know, it's instinct. It's built into their brains.
Well, there's a lot of men it's emotional
But I
for.
think it takes a certain like moral, like to be a man and to choose not to. That's your carnal instinct. That's your most basic instinct.
Right. Yep.
So to be
And
able to
don't you
have
think
the
that there's
self
probably a
will.
reason for
No,
that?
but for the
Don't you
men,
think there's probably a reason?
no,
Isn't
for
there
the men
probably a
that
reason that
have
we
the
want to kill
self-control.
people when they piss us
Wait,
off?
Yeah.
I don't think
Huh?
that's
Wait,
normal. Maybe
hold on, hold on, hold on.
100%.
Hold on,
You're
let her
talking about the
finish.
same
Go
thing.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's your most basic carnal, physical. What's that brain called? Your reptilian brain, right? I'm just going to act on my instinct. I'm going to do what I desire. And that is, there's no higher calling, there's no self-control, there's no
It's
any
for
of these
reproduction.
values.
It's for reproduction.
But that's still, but that doesn't change the point. It's still your most basic instinct. It takes
Exactly.
a lot, it's a lot harder to actually control yourself.
But who cares about that?
what,
Isn't
Nick?
there a reason why they have
What?
those instincts?
Well, let's just put it this way. The
cares about
societies where the men just follow their impulse to breed indiscriminately do not produce the best offspring.
How
and
do you
the-
know that?
Because
Who-
you can
who
just
has the
study
most-
it.
Who has
you
the
can
most
just study
children?
it.
It's
You
the
can-
high-value men.
No.
People like Elon Musk. Why
Okay,
does he have
listen,
so
I
many
know you
kids?
have to justify why your boyfriend's cheating on you. But
Okay.
it's not.
My boyfriend is not cheating on me.
I
It's a
know
different
we can
relationship.
call it whatever we want. We can label things different ways. That man will always
audio
be a
there?
man,
Oh.
even if he cuts off his penis. I don't care what the labels are. The
Yes.
truth of the fact is what it is. Now, the fact of the matter is, if we follow these base instincts to just reproduce indiscriminately, it actually does not produce for the best societies and the best raised children. That's why you don't
get a
follow it
third world
indiscriminately.
country with
You get a third world country. There's a reason that Western Europeans, which have the highest correlation for morality, also produce the most civilized
Can
societies.
you explain what highest correlation for morality means?
Sure. If you want to take a look at who actually has moral prescriptions, like you don't cheat on people, you don't steal, you don't kill, these sorts of things, it is the highest in Western
Yeah, but
European
who says those are
civilizations.
the correct morals?
Okay, so you're going to go into moral
Are you a rel-
relativism,
are you a relativist?
right? In
Okay.
which you can decide. How about this? If somebody just brutally kills somebody you love, are you going to say, oh, that was part of their culture and that's okay?
No.
No.
I
All
would
right.
not
So
say
that lets you know. So there is an internal instinct about what is moral and what isn't. We can get into the communist, moralist, relativistic position that says, oh, every culture has different morals, but then when you actually apply it practically, we all agree that children shouldn't be made to be child brides or get married or have sex, right? So we do have an agreement on morals.
Well, where do you find, like, how do you find out about that moral system? Because clearly people aren't following
That's
that
a very
moral
deep
system.
and theological question as well.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of writing on how you find out about the moral things. I think some of the things that we can start with is a lot of people do actually have a natural reaction to immoral behavior.
Yeah.
And that's one of the key indications that actually morality is innate as opposed to taught.
Right, but I mean, people still go against it, and people still.
Yes,
course,
they do.
yeah.
I've gone against it.
Yes,
Yeah.
but people justify it as well. So how
Right.
can we live in
So-
a society that doesn't justify immoral behavior?
Well, you have to have moral
Alchemist
leadership.
_XP donated $200.
Hey, thank you, Alchemist.
Why can't women comprehend men created the civilized world, electricity, paved roads, governance, plumbing, healthcare, and women think they are equal since they feel entitled to an
Well, a
opinion?
woman created that man, so
Well, also,
Wait,
a lot of those men made that for women before when they had to actually work for sex, but that's a different